Okay, you guys, what is up? The King of Lightning Gun do a very quick One Piece episode review. This is going to be One Piece episode 549. Now, this episode of One Piece, everything is actually self-explanatory. Basically, the key points in of themselves are as follows, okay? The first key point is going to be the reveal of Brook's new technique, which is his ability to remove his soul from his actual body. This, and I'm not going to lie to you, for those of you guys who don't read the manga, Soul King Brook in this arc is very, very impressive. I mean, like, he is jaw-dropping impressive. But he reveals that he has a new ability, and he's going to use this new ability in order to assist Zoro and Usopp from escaping the cage. He also reveals how he got it. One day he was in a musical slump, and he prayed to God, and thus his soul escaped from his body. And what ended up happening is that he revealed that he used his ability to peek in girls' bathrooms and girls' locker room and view girls naked to get his inspiration in order to continue his musical endeavors. And that was pretty funny in my opinion, right? The next key point after this is going to be the fight between Jinbei and Luffy, which is basically a one-shot. It was punch, and then Sanji got in the way because Robin appeared right in between Luffy and Jinbei, and then Robin disappears, which shows her development as a character as well. She's now able to produce I guess a flower body, like actually a full-blown body version of herself, which is pretty cool. And she utilizes this ability later on. And then Sanji gets in the way, and then they do like a cross punch, and then all three of them get hit. Now that's number 2. Number 3 is the confrontation between the princes and Dosen, who is one of the major commanders of the new Fishman pirates. And he gets taken out fairly easily by Fukaboshi, while Mamboshi and Ryuboshi take out the guards, or take out the other soldiers, or correction, the other pirates that Dosen had at his disposal. That's number 3. Number 4 is going to be the return to the Ryujigo Palace, in which Brook finds Papagoon, and he wants Papagoon to bring one of Zoro's swords so Zoro can slice the cages off and much more, because he's Zoro, and obviously they want to escape. And Papagoon is fearing for his life because he's seeing a ghost. By all technical reason, he's seeing a spirit, a ghost. And at the same time, we see Horty Jones. He's on the move. He's preparing to descend to Fishman Island and completely take it over, while the rest of the people who lived, or the rest of the thugs who lived in the Fishman district, are coming up to the Fishman Island. And Horty Jones is suffering from Zoro's wound, so he's taking a massive amount of energy steroids in order to get rid of the pain. And this will have a pretty devastating feedback on Horty Jones, and you'll see later on in the arc. And then the last key point is going to be the re-return to Jinbei, Sanji, and Luffy, whereas Jinbei will not let Luffy go, and because Jinbei wants Luffy to have faith in himself, so Jinbei can take care of Luffy's crew. But Luffy's the captain; that's his job. And also, it is revealed that Sanji figures out, because Sanji is smart, he figures out that that Hachi was in fact the one who stood up for the Stride Pirates, and thus Horty Jones proceeded to injure Hachi, maybe fatally, probably not, obviously not. So, but that being said, that's the entire chapter. I mean, that's the entire episode right there. Now, what I do want to explain here is that, in my personal opinion, when it came to structure, this episode was fairly decent, you know. It showed a few things about Hachi. We're seeing development from both Robin and Brook. So, in my opinion, when it comes to... and also we're seeing Horty Jones. He's preparing to descend upon Fishman Island and execute King Neptune in front of everyone. And we're going to see the princes and how they compete with Horty Jones. And you can see down below for the preview of One Piece episode 550, given by Everything One Piece, link somewhere down below, and you'll see this guy's channel. He does One Piece previews and so on and so forth. So, with that being said, for this episode of One Piece, in my opinion, when it comes to structure, it was good. Not solid, it was good. However, for the most part, I did not like this episode. And look, I understand people. I'm a One Piece fan. I dug you deep in the One Piece. However, this episode, I did enjoy the Brook scenes. I did enjoy the Fukaboshi. I somewhat enjoyed the Fukaboshi scenes. And overall, Holy Jones is okay. However, when it came to the Jinbei and Luffy fight, I was expecting a little bit more. I was expecting a few filler scenes added on to make the action seem more plausible, to make the action seem more extravagant, but they didn't do that. It was like a one punch, and that was it. Which is the same thing that occurred in the manga, but normally in anime, they do add on filler scenes to fights in order to extend the fight and making more entertaining. But in this episode, they didn't do that. The next reason why I wasn't a fan of this episode, even though the structure of the episode was good structure, but the second reason why I'm not a fan of this episode is because a pet peeve of mine is occurring once again in this episode, and that is the adaptation of the anime from the manga. Now, what I'm talking about is specifically two individuals, Sanji and Luffy. Now, the thing is, when it comes to the manga, and I'm going to say this, all right? And this should make sense. When it comes to the manga, if you ever read the manga, in this scene, what happens is that Jinbei does the fishman karate, okay? He explains how it affects Luffy regardless of his rubber stature. Now, Luffy counters. In the anime, what happens is that he does a full stance, gear second. In the manga, the only thing that goes gear is the leg in which he uses to kick Jinbei with. The gear is sustained in his left leg. Just how when he beat the pacifist on Shawonia Archipelago, Luffy did gear second one arm. That gear second was sustained in that one arm. But in the anime, he does gear second in one arm, but his entire body turns red. That to me is very annoying. And Sanji is the same case. Why is that? Because when Sanji, and if you remember, the way he attacked the Kraken underneath the water, which by the way was very impressive, he spun, in the anime, he torqued in the water. The friction of the water focused around his leg, and thus he created the Diable Jumbo, and then did the grill shot. However, in the manga, what happens is that the Diable Jumbo just comes. It activates on its own. And the reason why, I will explain the reason as to why Sanji can do this in a video that I have planned on Tuesday. So don't ask me. I mean, I know that you guys are going to ask in this video regardless, but there's going to be a video on Tuesday about One Piece and about a certain trait in One Piece characters that are non-Delphi users that I've noticed. So in this video on Tuesday, especially Zoro and Sanji, so in this video on Tuesday, ask the question why. Well, I'll answer it for you, okay? But basically, Sanji can do the Diable Jumbo and activate it by itself without any spin, without any torque. And the manga adaptation from the anime is not being correctly deciphered because Sanji's still spinning. He's still spinning. Luffy's still doing full gear seconds. But that's not the case. It's only on one arm or one leg. And that to me is very, very annoying. And the reason why, it's because it nerfs their skill. It nerfs their skill. Luffy has trained his ass off for 2 years. He's able to sustain the gear second on a part of his body, and this allows him to maintain the gear second for a long period of time, or use it for a short period of time, and thus it doesn't cause any body, and thus it doesn't harm his body as it normally would. But we're not seeing that because we keep on seeing constant gear seconds. So it's kind of annoying. He's still beastly in the anime. He's still beastly as all hell. And so is Sanji. But it's just that it's really starting to irk me. Like, it really is starting to irk me. But that being said, the structure of this episode, it was a good structure. However, when it comes to my personal opinion, it wasn't to my liking. Because I was really hoping that the anime would have gotten this down. The one leg gear second sustained in the one leg, snap back, beastly. So, with that being said, Brooke, Robin, good stuff. I am looking forward to the next episode. Once again, look down below for the preview of One Piece episode 550, given by Everything One Piece. And I'll see you guys later. King of Lightning. Rate, comment, subscribe. Peace. Have a nice day. Remember, Tuesday's video. Not today's video. Tuesday. Okay. I'll see you guys later. Take care.